Hello and welcome to this episode of the blog Chronicles. I am your host, Matthew Loomis. This show is sponsored by buildyourownblog.net, the full-service destination for people who want to start their own WordPress blog and achieve long-term success. My guest today is Jaime Buckley. Jaime has been a professional illustrator for over 30 years. He started out picking up side projects for his illustration business while working a regular job. He was fired from several of those jobs over the years, and like many of us, when the internet came along, it opened up some new doors for Jaime, and he eventually became a full-time illustrator for hire, with his own website as his platform. He's done book illustrations for several best-selling authors, and interestingly, Jaime started writing his own material and has added published fiction author to his portfolio, writing a middle-grade fantasy series called Chronicles of a Hero, which has received a ton of positive reviews over on Amazon. And if Jaime sounds busy enough to you, wait till you hear this. He is also the father of 12 children. That's right, 12. So I'm looking forward to asking Jaime how he works for himself in a home that also includes a dozen kids. This conversation should be pretty fascinating and useful if you want to live the dream of working for yourself from home in this new economy. Let's find out how Jaime reached his dream and found freedom on the internet right now by adding him to the blog Chronicles. Hi, Jaime. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Matthew. I'm glad to be here.
So, you have worked as an illustrator over the past 30 years. Have you been self-employed that entire time?
No. I've been drawing and making money that long and doing artwork professionally, but I've had a huge slew of jobs. Mm-hmm. I managed a 7-Eleven for like 4 years. I did graveyard shift. I called it the seventh level of Chinese hell. I was a repo man for vehicles for rather dangerous people I got shot at.
Wow.
I did door-to-door debt collecting, which was really fun because I helped retrieve about $100,000 in past due accounts in less than a week. It was kind of fun. I've been a bodyguard for a corporate executive for 2 years, and then I got fired. Not that he got hurt, by the way. But
I bet there's a story behind that.
Well, there is. We were down in California, down in LA, and everything was going great. And he was a very, very nice older gentleman in his 60s, and I would just ride with him and just make sure that he was okay. And because I was a rather big guy, and anyway, so after a huge convention where he was one of the main speakers, we went out to dinner at a nice restaurant, and an individual who I guess was a long-term friend of his, he says, so, how did I do? And I don't know why I reacted the way that I did. I just had grown fond of this older guy. I was kind of a father figure. And this guy says, I thought you did a shitty job. And right in the middle of the restaurant, I promise me, I have no idea what came over me. I actually, in a $500 suit, I climbed up on the table and over the table to knock him out. Wow. I was offended, and my boss was like, what the hell are you doing? And I got fired. So anyway, yeah, that was,
wow.
That was a pretty dramatic end to a really good job.
Wow.
Let's see, I've done what I called being a research drone. I had a corporation hire me once and gave me a stack of computer programs that were almost came out. If you stacked them on the floor, they'd almost come up to my shoulder. And then they said, we want you to research all this software and do a report on each of the pros and cons, whether or not it would be good for our company, for our employees. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And they said, but we know you have a lot of kids, so the conditions of this job is we're going to put you in a hotel. I was like, no problem. But they put me in a hotel in like a just backwaters place out in the middle of nowhere in the desert in Utah. And I didn't get to go home for 3 months until I was done and wrote the reports. So that was a weird job. I got paid a lot, but that was just bizarre.
Wow. So were you married during these jobs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All except for the graveyard at 7-Eleven, and that's when I met my wife. And yeah, that was kind of comical too. The my boss, who actually was the manager of the whole store, I was just over a shift. I told him, I says, I need tomorrow off. I'm getting married. And he says, you can't have tomorrow off. And I thought he was joking. So, I go with my shift the next day and I call him up and I say, you need to come down to the store because I'm going to get married in 2 hours. I need to leave. He says, I wasn't kidding. I'm not letting you off. And I said, what kind of jerk are you? And I said, well, I'll tell you what. I says, here's what you can do. You can either come down or the store is free because I'm leaving in 20 minutes and I'm just going to walk out. And that's exactly what I did. And he ended up calling me and the area manager. And the nice thing is the area manager was a 26-year-old girl, I think it was. And I was 21. And when I told her what he had done, she completely ignored all the stupid things that I did and leaving the store just completely unattended and turned on the manager and said, what kind of jerk are you? He was getting married. What is your problem? Anyway, so.
So are all these experiences why you gravitated to illustrations?
Maybe the comical side, because I used to draw political cartoons.
Oh, wow.
I used to, I've made T-shirts. I started getting employed doing random artwork when I was in school. I had kids that would pay me, and this is back in the 80s. They'd pay me hundreds of dollars to hand do artwork on their skateboards, do designs for T-shirts and stuff like that. When I was 15, I was a street artist. I would do caricatures of people. I got really quick at it. And so I went to live with my grandparents in Sacramento, California, and I would go down to the mall. And I didn't have a license. And I had already graduated high school. I graduated with honors at 15. And I would draw the caricatures. I would always pick a couple walking together. And then what I would do is I would draw them really quick, and then I would immediately run up, and I would always approach the girl first, always. And I would say, you guys look so great together, and I did these caricatures of you, and they're only $4. And I says, and I figured you guys really look like, you care about each other. So I thought, maybe you'd like a nice caricature of your young man, And I 99% of the time I get $4 from the girl. And then I immediately, without taking a breath, saying, and I'm sure you would like to have a caricature of the young lady, and turn on the guy. And the guy always did that because the guys were more stingy. And whenever the guy said, I'm not paying $4, they always got hit by the girl, and I got the $4 anyway. So on average, I'd make between $75 and $150 a day for a 15-year-old kid in the 80s. So, and all cash. So that worked. And I was quick on my feet because I had to run from the mall cops. So.
So that's kind of a sales 101, right? You always go for the lady.
Yeah. At least in that situation, yeah. But I'll tell you what, the ladies are always more open-minded, and I think they always know what they want more. The guys seem to think they know what they want, but they don't. They don't know how to describe it. But the ladies are very articulate, and I appreciate that. They're a lot more fun to work with as well. So. Yeah, I've been a cabinet installer. I've been, I have a long list of things that I've done. But I have, in every instance, whenever I possibly could, I've used my art skills to gain an unfair advantage over other people.
When did you actually do this full time? Like, that's all you do?
See, I've done on and off. It depends upon the stage in my life. Because I did, by the time I was 16, I was drawing a comic strip full time. I was a cabinet installer, and then my boss, because I was a really bad cabinet installer, and I started, because I was so embarrassed, I started making a comic strip of my escapades as a cabinet installer. The mistakes and things I would make that were really funny, but they're more funny in a comic strip. My boss saw a couple of them when I was drawing during a break during lunch, and he turned around and paid me $1,200 to draw him some of the comic strips. So it just kind of launched from that. Just wherever I go, that just seemed to happen. But as a full-time job, I'd probably say consistently from 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously the internet has, played a huge role in your business and
Oh yeah.
really helped your illustrations to probably take off, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I always wanted to draw. I always wanted to, either work for Marvel or DC or Image or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
I was too chicken. I didn't have enough confidence to really go out there and put myself out there. And yet I had enough confidence to do like the half step. I would, I don't know how I met some of these people. I can't remember whether it was conventions or what, but I always seem to end up with odd people um, that were trying to start a real comic book company, and so they wanted to see if they could find someone who was trying to be a real artist, if that makes any sense. So I ended up rubbing shoulders with unsavory individuals, and when that didn't work out, my father, this is when the internet was really starting to pick up. My dad says, you have this interest in this internet thing. He says, why don't you figure out a way how to do it there? Do your own comic books. You've always been able to write and do your own thing. And so that's what I did. I was selling 97-cent PDFs, which were traditionally drawn comic books, scanned in, made into a PDF for people to download and print off on their own computer back in 2005. And I was making a full-time living at 97 cents a pop. Before there were Kindles, before there were any of these e-readers, kids were just buying them, and college students were buying them just to download them and print them off and read them.
That's great. And we're going to get into the power of illustrations here in a little bit. So you work at home or from home, right?
Yes. Yep.
I'm curious now, the listener may not know this, but you have 12 children.
Yes, I do. I usually say I have 12 kids, and then I smile and I say children, not goats.
Yeah, I saw that on your website. Right, kids, goats. Yeah, I actually didn't know that kids was a baby goat until about 10 years ago. So, so how do you work at home with 12 children?
Well, working from home is one thing. Drawing from home is another. Drawing from home isn't a problem for me because it's not at least for me, I've been doing it since I was 2. Mm-hmm. So I have a struggle to draw in silence. I'll either have Netflix or music going or whatever, or especially when I was drawing comic books, as long as the baby doesn't get in, I have a baby gate up, I would just leave my door open all day long. It doesn't bother me. My kids, I have really good children. My wife is amazing, but I have really wonderful children. They're very respectful. Mm-hmm. And so usually when they come in, it's because they miss Dad. I've got 2 little girls, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. And sometimes they come in they just want to get a hug from Dad and tell me that they love me. And then they go out of the room. So if it's something that's really intense, that requires a lot of concentration, I usually let my wife know or let the older teens know, and they let the other kids know, and I don't have a problem. So it's never really an issue. My writing, like writing my books, that's easy because I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's up. So
I'm just curious, how early do you go to bed?
Depends. Depends if I've done something stupid and my wife wants to have a conversation. If you're married, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That we need to get this out before we go to bed, and then that means probably midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. If not, it's usually 10 to 11. So
okay, so you don't need 8 hours of sleep.
No, but here's the funny thing. Now that I'm almost 50, the funny flip side to that is, and this is one of the awesome things about working for yourself, is that when I get tired in the afternoon, because my noon gets a lot, comes around a lot earlier than everyone else's because I've been up since 4.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
my bed's behind me. I'll just take a nap. So I'm good. So I take a nap for an hour and hey, I'm up and ready to go for the next shift.
Okay. So aside from naps, what are some other things that you like about working for yourself?
Oh gosh. There's a lot of things that I really like about working for myself. Goodness sakes.
And I'm asking you these questions because a lot of our listeners hope to one day do that.
Oh.
They want to work from home someday. So that's why I'm picking your brain here on this.
Okay. Well, let's see. Well, I think if I could pick any particular thing that I love the most is I love the control of my time more than anything. And that's not just my schedule, but I like having control about how I do jobs. Give you an example. So where another artist might take a day to accomplish a certain job, I might be able to do that same thing in like an hour or so because I've been doing it for so long. So that's why I always bid by job instead of by time. I never do hourly anything anymore. I refuse to do that. And if I've actually had clients, I've had New York Times bestselling authors ask me to do stuff that has said, well, I only pay by the hour. And I said, well, then let me explain something to you. I'm going to charge you this much for the job. And if you want me to do it by hours, then I'll say that it will take me XX amount of hours to do it, but I'm going to charge you the hours according to the price that I just gave you. So either way, if that mentally and emotionally makes you feel better, that's fine. Then I will do that, and I will draw the time out and make you wait a lot longer for your work. But if I can do this in a shorter period of time and deliver, much quicker, that's what I prefer to do. Because the way that I look at it is how long something takes me, how long it takes me to do something, that's no one's business but my own. As long as you get what you're paying for and you're happy, how long it takes me should be irrelevant. As long as I can meet your deadline. And so that's how I look at things. And I love that ability to schedule my jobs and schedule my projects that way. At one point, not necessarily on artwork, but at one point I was making like $1,200 an hour. And I got paid $12,000 for a day's work by the owner of the company at the end of the day because he was so blown away. This is the podcasting thing I was mentioning. I love podcasting. I was doing shows based around my comic books that my daughter had invented. She says, well, Dad, can we interview your characters and you be the characters and I'll be the interviewer? And she was just a little girl, and I was like, that's a great idea. And she goes, I know. And she says, because kids love kid shows. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so I learned how to do podcasting back in 2005, 2006. Well, in 2008, I had a company with 3 partners, and we were in the financial industry. And one of the clients that we had, we got to know the 4 owners really well. And one of them was over their training material. And they were doing podcasts. They were doing all the podcasts in-house, but they were sending it out to a company that was taking 3 weeks per 45 to an hour minute episode for the editing and the fine-tuning and then putting it into the MP3 formats and all that and then uploading it to their site. And I said, and they were charging $3,500 per episode to do all that.
Wow.
And now here's the thing. They had to also work with lawyers because as they went through the editing, they had to know in the presentations what things legally they had to, words and things that they could not legally use to cut those things out. So it was a laborious process. But the thing is that for me to get them as a client, the owners had put me in with their compliance department, and I had learned from all their lawyers and knew it like the back of my hand anyway. So I laughed and I told my partners, I said, you know what, do you guys mind if I take on a side project? And they said, no, not a problem. I says, okay. So I took my lunch and I went to see our client. And I says, look, what if I told you that I had all the equipment, I have the ability, and I could give you, because he gave me an example of their podcast. I said, what if I could do a better job? You already know that you have personally trained me for compliance, and I could get that up and on your website in 72 hours per episode instead of 3 weeks. What would that be worth to you? And he says, what would you charge me? I says, I'll charge you $1,200 instead of $36. And he says, give me one, just do one for me and let me see your quality. I says, okay. So I went back, he gave me the tapes. I went back, I did it within 45 minutes, and within the hour I'd come back and delivered it to him. And he listened to it on my iPod, and he says, I'll be damned. He says, you got it. He gave me this whole box full of all their things. I did the whole thing in one day, and I delivered it on my way home. I went past his mansion, knocked on the door, handed everything over, and he wrote me a check for $12,000 for that day.
12 grand. Wow.
Yep. That's $12,000.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that I find myself in. It takes you a while to realize that sometimes, especially being an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, I like that term that you use, that we experience a lot of bumps in the road. But what I've learned after doing this for more than a decade, I learned that these bumps in the road are nothing more than learning experiences. And so if you twist it around and don't look at it as a problem, but rather a challenge, when you get further down the road, you're going to realize I got a heck of a lot of tools in my toolbox. And if you're just a little creative, you might find that where you might be focusing on one thing in your business, you might have talents to bring on a whole new avenue. For me, it was podcasting. I did training. Every Monday morning, I was training 1,000 agents across the country, all by webinar, all by myself. I would write. I did that for 2.5 years. And I got paid. It was funny because I got paid $8,000 a month for when I really added everything together. I was working about 90 minutes a month, and I got paid $8,000 a month, and that lasted for 2.5 years. That's not bad.
No, I can see why you like working for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I like people. I really like people. People are fun. I think we give one another a raw deal, and we're afraid of one another, and you don't need to be. People are cool. People are very cool.
So you like the freedom to work as you prefer working, to be your own boss.
I also love the sidestep.
Okay.
I love the sidestep, and I don't know if someone else has another term for this, but have you ever had this experience where you're in the middle of work and you're building your business or something, and then you might have a really, and it is, you can feel it from, balls to bone. You can feel this is a really good idea, or you have a flash of inspiration, and you have the ability, because you're in charge, you have that ability to implement it immediately. Sidestep. You have no boss, no committees. You can just say, ooh, this will make the business better, and you can just do it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. No meetings, right?
Exactly. I mean, how brilliant is that?
No approvals necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending upon your family, you could have, criticism, but,
sure.
That's afterwards. So
yeah. And that doesn't mean it's going to succeed, but at least you have the freedom to give it a go, right?
Exactly. So that's probably the second thing that I really enjoy. So
cool. Yeah. Well, Jaime, what do you not like about working for yourself?
Oh, I can only think of one real serious thing, is that I guess it's not that I do not like it. Is that it's all on me. Because I have always been a team player. When in other businesses where I've had partners, it's funny, I always ended up with the same nickname. That is, I'm the guy under the stairs. Because I'll give you a good example. I used to take on clients that were multi-level marketing clients. I love clients like that because I learned enough about policies and procedures by mixing with people and having the companies as clients. I've learned how to take people who have some money that can pay me, and I can actually get them to the top of, I can shine lights on people and make them famous in a company. And I do that all by never being seen. And most of my offices were usually under the stairs. I wouldn't have windows, and I didn't care. I would do what I loved to do, and I could do media. I could do websites, but I learned how to do the things that members of an MLM company could not legally do. I could do for them because I was not part of that company. So I could break all the rules by not breaking any rules, which kind of sounds funny, but there's a lot of money in it for people like me, and I don't like being in MLMs. So I found a way to be in MLMs and never be in MLMs, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah, it does. I mean, you were kind of doing some of the uh, behind the scenes marketing and media stuff.
marketing and media, and I was a really good rumor mill. I learned some trends about MLMs, and I made an average of $100,000 a year doing this. And that was learning that, when you got an MLM to pay, and I want to be careful here because I don't want to sour people with things because there are good companies out there, but I'm not for the companies. I'm always for the people. And I learned that no matter what the company is, when it comes to multi-level marketing, if you want to know what the truth is about any company of what's really going on, never look at the first 3 pages of Google, ever. Always look past. You always want to find the people that are having the real conversations and the real debates. And so I was one of those individuals that I could connect people together, and I could get people to ask questions. And then what I did is I could create a safe environment where people were asking questions and wanting to know the answers. And then I was very fortunate to work with really nice, good people that liked other people. And then I would steer them towards, distributors who were in this for the relationships just as much as the money. And so it was a win-win situation. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. So speaking of companies, now you work for Fiverr, or work on Fiverr, I should say. You're not an employee of Fiverr.
No, I am not.
You do your illustration business through Fiverr.
Yes.
How has Fiverr helped your business?
I think it's funny because Fiverr just started out as an experiment. Because I had used Fiverr as a buyer for almost 2 years. I use it for my comics and stuff because I love the voiceover artists that were on there. I thought that fantastic talent. But I never looked at the art of the graphic art side because I didn't need it. And I don't remember what it was. I think one of my computers was just really coughing and wheezing. And I was like, well, maybe I can make some money here. And I looked at some of the artists that were on there for line drawings. I was like, crap, those are my doodles. Hell, I could doodle for $5. I could do this in 30 seconds. Maybe if I just did it once in a while in a year, I'd save up enough for a computer, So I thought I'd try it as an experiment. And so I made a gig, and within, I think it was like within the first 60 seconds or somewhere between 60 seconds to 5 minutes, someone asked me to draw something for them. And I was like, wow, okay. So I heard and drew it and scanned it in and sent it back. And they were like, wow, that was fabulous. And they turned around and they ordered something else. And then someone else ordered and it was like wildfire. And next thing you know, I remember reading an article that said, if you can make, I can't remember what it says, something like, if you can make $250 within the first 90 days, you're doing really well on Fiverr because it's really only a part-time thing for most people. And within the first 90 days, I had made like $8,000. And I was like, okay, well, this is definitely a little bit better than a part-time job. So it just grew. And then I got tired because, earning thousands of dollars a month at $5 a pop, that's a lot of work. And my hands just could not handle that. And so my best friend said, well, why don't you do what you love doing and just up the price and just change what it is that you're offering? Okay. So I did, and I got more business. And so I'm making more money, but I'm still doing the same amount. I'm getting overwhelmed now. And so he says, well, just up the price. Just keep upping the price. And I was like, okay. So I just kept doing it, and I kept getting more work. And then I just said, I needed to slow down some. He says, well, and this is a friend of mine. I've known him for 22 years. And he says, well, what do you really want to draw? And I hadn't thought about that. And I said, you know what I really would like to draw? I love because of who I am and my kids, and all, I love entertaining kids. I'd love to do illustrations for children's books. I really have wanted to do that, and I'd never done it. I've done everything else that I could possibly think of, but I've never done that, and that's what I really wanted to do. So he says, well, make a gig like that, and then just put your premium price on there. So I did. And I still got the work. I got plenty of work. At first it was too much, and slowly I upped it just a little inch here and there. And so I went from my average gig being $5 to now my average gig is $1,400.
Wow.
And I love the people that I work with. I have not had a client in 8 months that I didn't like. And I make full-time living. So I'm probably making 90% of my monthly income is all coming through Fiverr right now. And I'm having a ball.
Yeah, I'm going to link to your Fiverr profile in the show notes.
Cool.
Works
for me.
Anybody is interested in your services.
Awesome.
I have been on the other side. I've used Fiverr many times for different things, usually graphic work or that voiceover work you were talking about.
Yeah, some great talent on there.
Yeah, they really do.
Well, I noticed do you do your, like, because I really like your cartoons, like the ones that are on, like for this program, like you did with with Brent. You know, I love those caricatures. Did you get that done on Fiverr?
Actually, no. Well, he may have started off that way. I can't remember where we met, but I have someone that I hire.
Well, that's awesome. I've had people show up that have flat out told me I will not work on Fiverr. And I says, and why are you on Fiverr? Is this because I want your information so I can talk to you off of Fiverr? And I said, I'm sorry, that's against the terms of service and I can't do that. And usually within an hour or two, once they've seen my real name on Fiverr, they go and they look me up and they find me either through Wanted Hero or they find me through Facebook or whatever. Next thing you know, I'm getting, an email anyway. And I said, well, the terms of services, I'm not allowed to talk to clients often. You haven't bought anything, you're not my client. And if anyone's listening, I know that's really splitting hairs, but if they didn't buy anything, and they flat out say, I will not work through Fiverr. I've had bad experiences, but I like what you're doing. Will you work with me off Fiverr? And I said, sure. And I've got regular clients that way yeah. So
do you think it helps to get good word of mouth referrals on Fiverr?
Oh yeah. See the advantage. There's a lot of things that people complain about, like Fiverr's cut their 20%. I mean, that is huge. It really is. It's 20% on our side and 5% on the buyer side. So it's actually 25% if I've got my math right. But the thing that Fiverr does that nobody else does is they bring the traffic. So if you just, I don't do anything. I really don't do anything, Matthew. I just continue to work and people find me. And I don't get a whole lot of traffic to each of my gigs. It usually goes by word of mouth. Someone has said, hey, someone recommended you, or I see all your reviews. Getting good reviews is essential. I've got like 310 5-star reviews, 100% 5-star rating right now. That can dip down, but I earn it back up. And, it's all about service. But yeah, it's usually the people that are complaining about Fiverr are the ones that are not doing well on Fiverr.
You mean, the service providers.
Yeah. Right. So, and things like what I've seen you do with, your blogging and the show and things that like Brent does. That's massive. You guys can make a fortune on Fiverr. It's fabulous. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's not where I want to stay though. It's just not. But for now, I love it. I'm enjoying myself.
Great. Let's focus a little more on caricatures, illustrations, and what you do. And obviously you pointed out, everyone knows I use illustrations in my branding as well. I wanted to ask you, as someone who does this professionally, I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, you said that caricatures or cartoons can help a blogger jumpstart or give life to a dwindling theme. And I wanted to ask you, what did you mean by that?
Well, I kind of had two versions of what that meant. but I had one intent when I posted it. If that makes any sense, I'll explain it. The intent was I was just trying to start a conversation with people. That's usually what I'm trying to do, because the way that I do all of my selling, and it's just my opinion here, but I think it's the right way to do it, is to get to know someone. Because I wouldn't go buy something just blindly from someone. I want to know who I'm dealing with. And I think one of the most detestable phrases I've ever heard, and you hear it all the time in TV and movies and all that, it's not personal, it's just business. I think that's horse crap. And to me, business is always personal. Everything's personal because it's all about relationships. And my goal as an artist is to have a long-term relationship with you as a client, because if I do a really good job with you, you'll usually do one of two things. You'll either come back and use me again, or you're going to talk about me to someone else. And either way, it benefits me and it will benefit you. And so that my first intent was to start a conversation. But it would lead to people who might be looking to put some sort of cartoon feel or color into their websites, or and which is funny because if you think about it, this will translate just as well as people who might like to have a unique guest post written that causes a comment party afterwards. And because if you really trace and find out who I am, I have reputations in different areas on the internet too. And one of them is being a blogging expert. I don't like that word expert, but I'm just, some people call me the king of blog or king of commenting. And it's just because I have a lot of fun in the commenting section, usually more than writing blogs, because I'm engaging with people. And so I got hired a few times just to come to a site and read a post and then honestly talk about it afterwards. And I've had a blast. And I've done it with friends. I've been invited. It's how I met, Brent. So
yeah.
And
well, I hope to see you in the comments on this post too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, Jaimes, as someone who is on both sides of the cartoon business, as far as drawing them as well as using them for blogging and marketing, I want to ask you, what can a cartoon or illustrations do for a website?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, simply, if we look at it just simply, I mean, you can use in a cartoon. If you really think about it, if you look around and advertise and look around the world, everything you see in society, cartoons are everywhere. So especially anyone who has a business type website, you'll notice the professionals that are out there, the large corporations, are using more and more cartoons. First off, it can make a site unique. You can make it pop, especially, so I'm talking about like custom artwork, not like clip art.
Right.
Something that's adjusted to your theme or your audience or your subject matter. You can use cartoons for your, think about it. You use, like we said, you use it for your interviews and your blogging tip sessions. And that's what captured my attention, because that's how I actually, before I found out about these programs from Brent, I actually found you because I was looking up stuff about Sean Platt.
Oh, okay.
And so when I saw that and I listened to, and it was your cartoon that went, hey, I know who that, do I know who that is? Wait, that's a character. Hey, I want to. But the funny thing is, what people might not realize from a business standpoint is, cartoons are one of the most powerful involvement devices on the planet.
Whoa. You said what?
Powerful involvement devices. I mean, think about it.
Oh, involvement. Okay.
Involvement. So if you can create something fun, create not just a cartoon like a figure, but if you had just on occasion a comic strip, think about how that starts conversations or starts comments. You just go to Pinterest, go to, I found out that doing some research lately, I found out that cartoons can double email open rates. And increases engagement. Cartoons can help you gain access to VIP prospects. Someone called Sandler Training, I was reading an article and someone said place called Sandler Training tested it, and that they generated a 100% response rate, and they got an 8,000% ROI.
Mm-hmm. I believe it.
So I mean, it's incredible. And cartoons, it creates a tremendous stickiness factor to whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's a campaign or a poll or a, and then you got to wonder, how is it that it does it? It's because, I don't know, we view cartoons in a unique way. I mean, it suspends our disbelief. You ever seen those pictures where someone has someone take a photograph of them, and they're standing in front of the Empire State Building, and they're, like holding their hand out, and it makes it look like it's in the palm of their hand?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And we look at it, I mean, as corny as that is, no matter how well the photograph is taken, you know that they're not holding the Empire State Building in their hand. I mean, as fun as it is.
Yeah.
But here's the fun thing. If you saw a cartoon, a fun, colorful cartoon of that same thing, your brain does something weird. It detaches. It's not that you really believe that someone could lift the Empire State Building, but your brain disassociates reality and actually looks at that cartoon open-minded, just like Superman, a picture of Superman flying over the Empire State Building. Your mind accepts that more readily than it would be a photograph. And so we can use that to our advantage in our websites and our businesses.
Yeah.
We can talk about sensitive topics. I mean, gosh, how long have they been doing political cartoons?
Mm-hmm.
You can really rub someone's nose in something on an issue that you're really hot about and actually get them to laugh.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Do you remember political cartoonist Pat Oliphant?
I'm not good with names. I would identify the person by the cartoons rather than the artist.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think he retired like 15, 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
But he was, growing up, was one of my favorites. I'm kind of a political junkie, so.
Oh, are you? I was a Bloom County addict.
Oh yeah, that was a good cartoon.
Yeah. That and Calvin and Hobbes, which seems to be just about everyone's favorite. My favorite, though, will always be Peanuts. And not just from the comic strip, but because Charles Schultz has always given my favorite quote, and that is, "It only took me 29 years to become an overnight success."
Right.
So,
yeah.
So, I mean, all in all, cartoons, I mean, if you think about it, it's a really effective means of communication because you can convey an idea really smoothly. And so, as bloggers and as business owners or solopreneurs, we can really take advantage of things like that. And they're very easy to come by. There's a lot of talented artists out there.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with everything you've said. And that's why I'm using them. And I love it. It's so much fun. I get to be part creative director and collaborate with my guy, and it's a lot of fun.
It's fun.
It's a lot of fun, yeah. So, is there a balance, Jaime, like using caricatures versus using real photos? Should a blogger never use a real photo of themselves? Should they mix in both? What do you think on that?
Well, gosh, let me think about that for a second, because I think that's a really hard question. And personally, I think it depends on what your site or blog is about. And so like mine, like wantedhero.com, my site is 99.99% cartoons. But I cater to teens. But I do have my, about the author. When you go there, it's all photographs. It's not cartoons of me. But there is a cartoon of me other places on the website. But when it's really about you, my own personal feeling, like back when I was with my partners again in the financial industry, I was able to get people to call me. I never cold called a single client the whole time that I was running that business. And I was on the phone from 7:30 in the morning. This is Utah time. 7:30 in the morning till 11:30 at night for the first year, 6 days out of the week. These were people calling me and me having. I always sold over the phone. I never met a client face to face, and I was selling a $3,500 package. I sold them hand over fist, but they were coming because when they'd come to my website, all these complicated sites that all our competitors had, and mine was a 4-page site. On the very front page was a rotating picture of me and my 3 partners, and each was a family photograph of each of us with our families, and would just rotate. And depending upon, who was coming to and when it refreshed, you'd have one of us, the partners, on there. And it just showed us and who you would be dealing with. And the view and the feel was just, we're family men in a very cutthroat industry.
Yeah.
And the one of the comments on there is that I'm here to be of service to you. And I always answer the phone saying, how may I be of service? And more people say, you are such a godsend because you're not like all these other leeches. And it started, I said, well, how did you find us? He says, well, you're there on the internet, but I'd go through and I went through all the other sites, but you have such a lovely family. So you have that. But then like on my site, with Wanted Hero, my target market is 14 to 17-year-old kids that like fantasy books.
Yeah. So it depends on the niche.
Yeah,
right?
It depends on the niche.
Because, like, if you're a food blogger, you want real photos
Oh,
of real
absolutely.
food. Right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm a 350-pound guy that has gourmet cooks in our family. My father's a chef. My wife is, wow, yeah, she can cook. So, yeah, definitely pictures. Depends on what it is that you're doing. Yes. Photographs, restaurants. I want to know, if it's a place that people are going to go to. I would never suggest doing cartoons, though I would, for the main part of the site. However, I do believe that cartoons in one form or another can be used to an advantage on any site, regardless of the content, because you can have a spokesperson, like a mascot. That's always popular.
Yeah.
You can get, someone that gives out, talk about a food blogger. You can end up having that food blogger or a mascot being the one that shows those photographs.
Yeah.
Or if it's a restaurant saying that's making the reservations, things like that. So there's always creative ways to do it.
Yeah.
To, like we said, sending emails, people opening more emails with cartoons. Use that to your advantage. So.
In your opinion, should the About page have a photo or a caricature?
I would be torn on just one issue. On the About page, is it about an individual or is it about a business?
Okay, well, let's say it's a solopreneur.
Solopreneur.
Or a blogger.
I really would, because it's a personal thing, and I think, again, I'm going to give my opinion here, and you can take it, the grain of salt. But I think the future of blogging, all blogging, is going to change here soon, because, like, for example, I don't know if you know Kevin Duncan over at Be a Better Blogger.
I am familiar with him.
He's become a dear friend. He was the first. His was the first site that I had read in 9 years, that I signed up to his email list just because I liked reading his content. I didn't want anything from him. I just signed up because I enjoyed and laughed being on his site. First blog in 9 years. I mean, that's quite a thing. I think blogs are going to go the way of, it won't matter about Google. It won't matter about your ratings. I think eventually blogs are going to go the way of, you're going to end up getting people coming to you because they like your personality. And that being said, I would say if you're a sarcastic, joking, comical individual, I would use a cartoon. If you're more family-oriented, kind, or business focused, I would use a photograph.
Okay.
Because regardless, I want to know who I'm dealing with. And if you're a character or comical, I wouldn't mind seeing a funny cartoon.
Yeah.
But like with you, I like that you have a photograph. You
Uh-huh.
know, because the first thing going to your main website, when I first went there, I was like, oh, this is a nice looking guy. I'm going to click on this and watch this video. So, you know, it achieved. Hopefully that's what you intended it to do, because that's what I thought and that's what I did. So
Yeah, this is great feedback coming from you. I appreciate that.
no problem.
Uh, I'm going to throw this out there as well.
Okay.
When it comes to is the person behind the website a real person or not? If they're not a real person, they should use a caricature. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but I don't know too many dogs or cats that are doing blogging.
I'm being a little funny here, but I'll tell you, I know there's actually a few folks in my niche, the blog tip niche or blog building niche,
Uh-huh.
that actually they're not real. They're not real people.
Okay, how does that work? How does that work? It's not grasping that.
I'm
You
not
know,
going to mention who I'm talking about, but I know I'm familiar with the 2 or 3 sites that it's all caricature. I mean, they use a caricature in their social media profiles and their website.
oh, well, see, well, I can give you an example then
But
where,
they never show their
well,
real
yeah, that would really,
because I and there's one in particular I found out through a third party that it's not a real person, and I'm pretty sure there's this other one that's not either. So
okay, you got it. Okay, you don't have to give names, but I'm still not grasping this. What do you mean not a real person? Are these like aliens? What are you talking about?
well, what I mean
Is it computer generated?
like they're saying John Doe is, or just use John Doe. John Doe. This is John Doe's website, and I'm all about helping you, become a successful blogger.
So
But
you're talking about that they've created an alias.
an alias, yeah, well, yeah, I guess you could say that. But what's funny is, yeah, I
Well,
mean,
if it is a human being behind the creation and maintaining of the website, you have to say it's a real person, whether or not they show their face. Because otherwise, I'm thinking, is this like totally computer generated? Because
no,
I've
no,
seen
no,
stuff like that.
no. In fact, one of them, they even do like a video where it's just voice. It's like
Oh
screenshots.
yeah. Heck,
Yeah,
one of the most popular and well-paid people on YouTube is that woman that opens toys for Disney. You never see
right.
her face. You just see her chunky little fingers and her sweet voice.
That's
You
true.
know? So I
Right.
get that. But if it's I can see okay, I'll give you an example with me. I was not a real person when I ran a blog. I did a blog for a while where I was making somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000 a month, where I was actually I took one of my characters from my fantasy book series, who in my comic books was a billionaire gnome. And I actually made profiles for him on Facebook. I did, and what was it called? Raintree, a bunch of these other professional websites, and I put cartoons of him up. And then I made a website around his name and gave financial advice.
Hmm.
And
And, and,
it was successful, and it was not me. Because I was
yeah.
writing under an alias, because if I had done that, and I can say it now because everything's taken down and done with, but I helped people, and I was combating people that would come after me legally, and I wanted to expose crap that was going on
Yeah.
that people were getting taken advantage of, and I needed to blow the whistle without someone showing up on my doorstep and trying to hurt me or my family. And so that's the way that I did it. So there's all sorts of reasons why you might want to do it as an alias. Maybe it's a guy that wants to get into the romance novels, so he does it as a woman. I know people that do that. So that makes sense.
What are some of your favorite brands or solopreneurs that are using cartoons?
Oh, see, I don't know about solopreneurs, because I'm mainly focused on writers and cartoonists. So that's I mean, this is kind of an easy question. You probably want a wider span, but I'll just give you what I've got.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan, for example. And
Okay.
he's got a website for kids that's called mousecircus.com. Just check it out. The doodles and things that are on there, I just love the feel of the site. It just draws you in. But I will tell you this. Are you married, have kids?
Yep, I am.
Okay. How old are your kids?
4 and 6.
Ooh, perfect age. Have you ever been to the shellsilverstein.com site?
Silverstein?
Shell Silverstein, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I'm going to send you the link after it. And you know what? You should put the link in here as well. Anyone who's got kids,
Okay.
and if you want to see the best use of cartoons over anyone, including me, okay? And that's saying something. I'll toot my own horn, but there's no one that does, in my opinion, does better than that website. The animations are brilliant, and they make every single click on that website an adventure. It is awesome, and kids just love it. We're a huge Shel Silverstein fan.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, send me the link.
Yeah, I will. It's shellsilverstein.com.
Okay.
But you go there, and it is brilliant. The little line, black and white, just like on all of his books. When you put your mouse over the links or click on them, all these new just animations with everything, and it's just brilliant.
Okay, yeah, I'll link to that in the show notes as well.
The
What are some other brands that you like?
Well, let's see. Probably one of the best ones that we all know, but you wouldn't think about it, would be Google.
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about it. How often do they change the Google page? And why do they do it? I've wondered this for a while because sometimes depending upon, 4th of July or any of the, any holiday, they'll change it. But once in a while, they just change it just for the heck of it. And I wonder if it's because even though we're using it all the time, they become wallpaper or part of the furniture. Is to let us know that we're still here.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But they always come up with something really cool. And I heard a rumor that it's the employees that create those things. I don't know if that's true, but I just think it's really neat when they have a brand new thing that follows the shape of the word Google. So that's a really good.
Yeah.
Really good way.
Yeah, I like that too. And what are some of those characters that you see they use every so often? Droids or something?
What, that Google uses?
Yeah, Google uses like what's that one little robot looking character that you sometimes see?
I don't know. Is that them or is that
Is that Android?
I think it's Android. But I didn't know that was Google. So
okay, maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it's
I don't know. See, I mean, we've got symbols. If you got brands and things, best use of artwork, you've got the iTunes stores.
Yeah.
You've got the app stores. It's gosh, anyone that uses an icon, that's a cartoon. If you really think about it, it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
You've got stuff on your main site there that I went to on the right-hand column when you're talking about, building a website and your lessons, which I think are absolutely awesome. And walking someone to it is so well laid out. Kudos to you because that really is just fantastic. But even your column down on the right-hand side, all those, the little emblems, those are cartoons. I think we don't properly understand what a cartoon is. I think many of us, maybe our generation and a little bit older, think of cartoons as like something that kids watch on Saturday, but that's not what that is. A cartoon really is something that is just not reality. It's something that we make that can convey an idea in color. At least that's my definition. So it can be serious, it can be comical, it can be sad, it can be tragic. And it can be part of the environment, part of your website environment. It just makes something pop and stand out. So.
Yeah, you'll appreciate this. I've been introducing my kids to Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So.
So how much blogging do you do for your business?
Oh, right now, zero. It used to be daily, then it
Hmm.
went to weekly. I remember I went to a friend of mine. I actually had tried for 5 years to get him to work for me. Uh, and slowly over the years, I got his attention more and more as I developed Wanted Hero. And finally, I got him. He was so impressed at how far I'd come on my own. And he's a marketing genius. His clients are all big corporations. And I've always asked questions of pros, and nobody could give me an answer. They said, no, that just won't happen. I've always had a goal with Wanted Hero. I just wanted to make 100 sales a day from my site. And I asked him, I says, I want to make 100 sales from my site a day. Is that possible? And he says, of course it's possible. It's just a numbers game, he says, if you can generate what you need, the type of traffic. And so he did the math on the bare minimum, and then he cut it in half again. And he said, for you to get 100 sales a day from wantedhero.com, you need about 30,000 visitors a month. And I choked because I get sales all over the place through like Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all that with my books. But I still hadn't had a whole lot of traffic on a regular basis. I have these huge waves coming to my site, but I'd not built my site as well as it's being built right now. And he said, here's what you need to do. He says, you need to write and create 12 articles and pieces of unique artwork and articles a day, 7 days a week. And I kind of choked. And he says, it'll only take you about $10,000 a month for the advertising to make that happen. And I laughed. I said, I don't have that kind of coin. He says, no, you don't. But you have something that most people don't. You have the ability to make it on your own. And I said, okay, but that's several times more than the most I've ever worked in my life. He says, I know, but I think you can do it. He says, all my corporate clients, they always tell me right off the bat, well, I'll just do it in-house. He says, I've never had a corporate client last more than 7 days with the list that I give them. I said, all right, send me the list. And I choked with how much I had to do. And I lasted 7 months, something like 2 weeks and 4 days. Every single day. I did 12 articles, original artwork. I did 1 to 4 infographics a week. I did podcasts, and I did those videos that you saw on YouTube that aren't actually videos; they're the audio for world building, all that. So that's what I was doing over that 7 months, and I was fried. And at the end, I didn't have any traffic or any sales. I didn't have any. It didn't even make any sense. And I don't know what happened, but it got to the point where I was about ready to quit. And I remember my wife, I burned out. I popped a fuse or something. And I remember spending most of the day sitting in this chair and staring at the screen and saying nothing. My wife's coming in and out. She's getting real worried. And she says, what's wrong, sweetheart? Because I'm always going. I'm always moving. And I said, I want to quit. I'm done. And I worried her, And she turned me around on my chair, and she said, I had bags under my eyes. I was white. I was not sleeping well. I was not eating well. I've been working so hard for so long. I broke down and I cried. I says, I can't keep doing this. I don't understand. I have followed everything that Lawrence had told me. I have followed every book, every program, everything that everyone's ever told me, and I'll be damned if it's ever worked for me. Ever. And it's pissing me off. I'm done. And she says, I want you to do just one more thing. And I felt like I was just going to fall to pieces. One more thing? What? She says, I just want you to try one last thing. Try being yourself. And I bawled. I bawled, Matthew. I said, people are not going to like the real me. They just won't. And she looked at me and she smiled. She gave me a kiss on the cheek. She says, I think you might be surprised. And if you can't do it for you, please do it for me. dang it, I hate when she does that because I will always do it. And I said, okay, you know what happened? I completely let go. I went back to blogging. I didn't do anything the system of the way that I had been shown and all these programs, and I've done a lot. And I don't want to name names because I have friends that have done these high-profile programs, and they've all been successful. But none of them have worked for me. Instead, I went back, and I just decided, screw all the rules. I just want to be me. And to me, people matter. And so I just decided, no rules. I'm just going to be myself. And 9 weeks later, I had 30,000 monthly visitors coming to my website.
So you were just yourself and
just myself. And that is 100% from blogging. No advertising, no anything. I just engaged through my blog.
So, I know people...
There's a lot to be said by being who you really are.
Right.
I just,
How transparent were you at that point?
You could have seen my underwear size. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I was holding nothing back. Everyone knew me for who I was. And if you didn't like me, well, there's nothing I could do about it. I would like you anyway, but it doesn't matter.
So were you when you became just your real self, were you blogging daily?
I was blogging. I was blogging weekly, but what I ended up doing is I started going to everyone else's site and visiting friends and engaging on their websites. And then I had people coming to my website because they're saying, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
I was having blogging parties because it was just fun. When I found an article that was really engaging, that I enjoyed, I not only make comments to the writer, I would comment on everyone else's comment. That's what I like doing, and that's what I got known for. Is I want to engage, not just reply to the writer. I want to reply and question and engage the readers because this is a fun subject. Don't just come and, excuse the phrase, fart on somebody's blog. Stay and actually say something that actually means something other than, this was really great. This is wonderful. I think you did a lot of value. That's such horse crap. Right. Actually give something to contribute and do something that throws a bucket of ice water down people's backs and get them to respond. And I love doing that. And so that's just what I focused on doing. It was hilarious. And so I had started making friends all over the world. You want to hear the sad part?
What's that?
I still didn't make any sales. But you know why that was? Is because I was never focused. And here's a key thing for all the bloggers. You have to go after your target audience. My target audience is 14 to 17-year-old kids, not grown-ups. That's why I'm redoing everything right now. I lost 1,100 pages of my blog.
Yeah, I saw that in my research. That sounds so painful.
It's very painful. That's 11 years of my work.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was tragic because it was right at the same time that my computer here at home melted down. So the website thing happened, then my computer happened. I was like, that's okay. I still have my backup right here. My backup melted down.
Yeah.
I lost all that. And I don't know how it happened. And people have tried to say, well, you can do this, that. Just trust me, it's gone. If I had it, I wouldn't be doing this. So for the last 3.5 months, I've been trying to recreate 11 years. And then I realized, no, I can do better than that. So I went out to the other room and I asked my kids, I said, if I could make a website where you, my children, could come and play, actually get on the website and play, what would you like in the wantedhero.com site? And they were just giddy. I had 3 pages of a yellow legal pad, every line filled with suggestions. And so far, I've done every single one of them. So I'm excited to launch this thing next month. So
you're doing all the developing, or?
Oh, yeah, I do everything.
Oh, wow.
I had to learn. That's part of the bumps in the road. When someone says, yeah, I could build that website for you, it'll only take $20,000. Sorry, no. I don't have that at the moment. And if I did, I would buy a car. So I'll go get the library books and do it myself. That's what I said in 2005. And you learn a lot in 12 years.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the commenting for a minute.
Okay.
When you started, so are you, first of all, are you still commenting today? Frequently or?
No, not at the moment. Right now, I'm doing all my forever work, and then when I still have any strength left before I lose consciousness, I'm building the website. As soon as the website's up, yeah, gosh, I miss my friends, and
Okay.
so I'll be commenting on, I'll be going all over the place because that's half the fun for me.
Yeah.
Just like I don't like Facebook because I think it should be called in your Facebook
Yeah.
because if people don't, at least my experience. Other people are having different experiences. That's awesome. For me, people are vomiting on each other. They're not having conversations. But on
Right.
blogs, we can have conversations and it's fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna go back.
Don't you almost wish you could go back to the days before social media
Oh,
as far as blogging?
yeah. And to do what you know now,
Right.
you'd be on top from day one.
Right. So you started commenting on blogs like that where your target audience was hanging out.
Well, actually, what I did was no, my see, because my target audience is in teen areas. They're in places like they're really not on blogs.
Right.
That's the struggle that I had. 14 to 17 year olds is crazy because, they don't have credit cards. They don't have PayPal accounts. They're not buying buying this stuff. And they're on places like Reddit, and they're not really even a whole
Hmm.
lot on Facebook much anymore. So most of the places that I was going were still controlled by parents. So actually, no, I stopped doing that. Instead, I am I'm engaging the parents because I should be out there engaging the parents. And I'm just taking a twist on it is that the website and the blog I'm writing my blog focused at my 17-year-old and my 14-year-old daughters. And I wasn't even going to have a blog. And then my oldest daughter, Asia, is 17. She says, no, Dad, please, you have to have the blog. I said, why? No one reads it. She says, I read every single one of your posts when you were blogging. You did? Why didn't you ever say anything? She goes, what do I need to say about it? She says, I read it and I know you and I could see another side of you and I loved it. I was like, well, what would you have me read? She says, I want you to write to us. Tell us stuff. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay. Um, so I'm going to write to the kids, but I'm going to talk to the grown-ups because I might talk to you and have fun because you and I are adults. We're guys. We like the subjects that we're talking about right now. I love your website. I can relate to your website. So I can talk to you about your stuff. But when you talk to other people about me, what are you going to tell them now?
Well, I'm going to tell him that he's a very personable guy and a lot of fun to listen to, tell his stories, and he knows a lot about um, the illustration business and working online,
Now,
websites.
now let me ask you something. If they say, well, where do I find them? Then what are you going to tell them?
I will give them one of your domains, at least.
Well, the way that I talk and engineer things, people will end up coming to wantedhero.com. But now what will happen differently than it was before is the grown-ups are going to find out that it's not a place for them, but they're going to look at it and say, wow, this would be a great place for my kid.
Hmm.
So that's how I'm going to try to get to it. I'm not going to cater to the parents anymore. I'm not catering to the adults. I'm going to engage
Okay.
with and make new friends. But one of the biggest waves of people that I got to know through blogging, some of the most beautiful bloggers in the world, are mommy bloggers. I love them.
Hmm.
I think they are mind blowing, and
Yeah.
they're well knit communities. If you convert one and make friends and gain the confidence and trust of one, you gain it in huge circles, chunks at a time. And I'm a very protective father, and there's no one who I kiss the water that she walks on more than my wife.
Hmm.
And the mommy bloggers know that about me. There's, you know, so when this
So do you do a lot of commenting on mommy blogs?
Oh yeah. In fact, I not only after I did commenting with mommy bloggers and business bloggers, I started getting invited all over the web to do. to do guest posts. So,
Okay.
and I love doing guest posts.
So, Jamie, would you say, kind of going back, you've been mentioning Wanted Hero, and some people may not be real familiar with Wanted Hero. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Sure. Okay, so Wanted Hero, it's probably my biggest project I've ever done. I wanted to create something back in about year 2000. I wanted to create a, a, a business or a project that I could make a living from, and I wanted it to last until I died. Literally. That was my goal. To make something that I could continue to work on that I loved until I died. And I'm a storyteller. I've got kids. And I have very large extended family as well. We're a little bit above average, but pretty average in my family. So I've got, hundreds of cousins. And so I created a fantasy world, and I launched it in 2005. At first it was with comic books. That got popular. Within the first year, I had readers in, I think, like 60 countries. And then in 2009, my oldest daughter and my wife convinced me that I should switch to writing novels instead. And I had never thought about that. My hands were having a bit of a hard time at that point. I had been in a car accident, and I had surgery on my palm. It was very, very painful for me to draw at the time. And so I switched to writing. And anyway, the storyline's based around a teen named Wendell. He turns out to be this hero by accident. And the fun thing about this world is that there's always a character that the readers can relate to, no matter who they are or how old they are. And it's kind of a comical way for me to take readers on a journey, and it's actually to discover more about themselves while they're having a really wild adventure. And so right now I'm rebuilding the website, which I hope to have live by September 1st. And it's packed with goodies for visitors, including a new fan club. And what's neat about our fan club is that new members, are actually any members, but where members are going to be able to get each of my books, the digital version, each of my books for free as they're being published. So
Yeah, I was checking out some of the reviews, like on Goodreads, and people really love this series.
Yeah, I wish I could find the secret. If you ever have someone on your show that can explain how to get people to leave reviews, oh gosh, I will be at the edge of my seat, because that is a little bit of magic that I just cannot figure out. And so I just one thing at a time. Locally here in Utah, gosh, my books are in libraries, they're in schools. I go to certain cities and I have fans, and it's hilarious. But online, gosh, it's so painful to try to get reviews. But we have games, quizzes, artwork, galleries, book bundles. We're gonna change things here.
Your conundrum with reviews is that you're not getting enough of them.
Yeah, because if I can get someone to leave a review, it's always positive. But it's hard. I read something and talked to some people that make a full-time living, like selling things on Amazon, not authors, just goods. And they said that one of the most difficult things is that most people don't leave reviews.
Right.
And
Yeah.
just like most people that will read our articles, they don't leave comments.
Yeah, that's just what I was thinking.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to figure out why or how to engage them, to do that. And I think that'll come more with the fan club. So we'll change it, but it's all good, and there's always that tipping point. We're getting closer and closer to that tipping point. Then it'll explode.
Yeah, Jamie, your Wanted Hero series, is that good for 4 to 6-year-olds?
Well, I try to be really respectful of parents and their parenting techniques and values. I've got, even though my target is 14 to 17-year-olds, I've got my biggest fan. My biggest fan is probably my 9-year-old son.
Okay.
But my younger daughters, like my 6-year-old daughter, all of them, they've gone through my comic books. My comic books are good for everybody.
Okay.
You can still get those through Amazon still, the original ones.
Hmm.
But the books, I've read most of my books to my younger kids, but they really are, they've got more older teen themes and things in them.
Yeah.
So they're not, it's not Peter Pan. There's violence and things in them. There's no swearing in them. There's no drug use and things like that. But
Mhm.
um, it's some of it's really, really intense. I'm actually going to be writing some books that will be for the younger kids very soon. We're going to call it the Underling series because it's other aspects of the same world. It attaches to the storyline, but it has to do with characters that are for younger kids. So, but it depends, some of these kids, Simon, my son, who's 9, he reads to his little sisters all the time and they're like, Dad, this is awesome. And I was like, that's great. Glad your brother entertained you.
Yeah, this sounds great. And maybe I'll put them on the shelf for later,
Yeah, that works too. Yeah.
There you go. Um, yeah, I will link to the Wanted Hero website, even though it's not like ready just yet.
Okay.
It's going to be like in a month from now.
Yeah, my goal was to have been done by the 4th of July. And, when you lose 11 years, 2 months to rebuild it was that was a ridiculous goal. And then, still trying to make a full-time living drawing where you're drawing 12 to 16 hours a day. It was unrealistic. So, but I'm like 80% of the way there. And the hardest thing was getting all the artwork done. And now I'm just doing these fun quizzes and things. So I'm actually, who knows, if I had 1 week just clear, I think we'll get before September 1st.
Okay.
If I do before, I'll actually let you know, and you can make a modification on your site. But
yeah, that sounds good. I got to ask you this. This is an extra question thrown in because you're so you do a lot of different things, and you're doing
more than we have talked about, my friend. More than we have talked about.
I mean, you're even doing the development for your new website. So I'm curious if you do any outsourcing.
I do not. I made my first website. My first website was wantedhero.com. I did in 2005. Released it, I think, in January. Maybe it was end of 2004, but I don't think so. Anyway, but did it by library books, basic HTML. And the second website I did, my father was so impressed with it. He talked to one of his clients who needed a website, and they hired me, and they paid me $14,000 to do it.
Nice.
So I did that. Yeah. And that was before things were really complicated. It was mostly the basic HTML and putting pictures up, but it was a window company. So I did the products per page and stuff. And it took me a while, but that was good money.
Yeah.
And, I've built hundreds of websites for people over the years and just keep getting better. Of course, my favorite platform is definitely WordPress. So hands down, in fact, now when people say, will you do this? I say no, unless it's WordPress. I don't do anything else anymore. Just no reason for it. So, but I build websites, and there's so many plugins and so many, I knew the website, the internet was going to go this way, is the big money and the real power hitters in the future were going to be not the people that made the websites, because now it's us. It's the people that make the tools to let people like me make the websites I want. Those are the brilliant people.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear you talk about, how great WordPress is, because I advocate for
WordPress. There's nothing else like it. But I will tell you this. Please tell your people, do not get a free WordPress site. Ever, ever, ever. And I am knocking it because back when I was making thousands of dollars a month blogging, that website that I made with my character, my gnome, that's a free web WordPress site. And the trouble with the free platforms is that if you get someone in your niche, because this is what happened to me, if someone in your niche is also, and they don't have to know who you are, but they cause problems enough that the company decides that we just don't want to deal with these problems anymore, you're going to have someone that makes $10 an hour unplug your site and everything's going to go down the toilet. And that's exactly what happened to me.
Really? Can you give us a little more detail on that?
Well, I was debating about financial things again. Like I said, what I was being paid to do was actually to help people and to expose fraud and stuff that was going on. But I don't go and jump in people's faces. What I do is I bring up questions and start conversations and encourage people to do more research. That was my job. But you had other people who were trying to do the same thing or battling against us, and they were getting vulgar.
Mm-hmm.
So there were arguments going on to the point that they realized that certain keywords and certain topics, which is what my blog was named, WordPress decided to just cancel out all the websites that were conducting or having these conversations and arguments and all that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't participating in that, but I was grouped in that. And so my income flow went from, $6,000 a month plus to nothing.
Yeah. You see, Jamie, I tell people that all the time.
You have to be able to control
Yeah.
your content.
Right. You don't own the real estate, so
Exactly.
you got evicted, it sounds like.
Yes, I did. Yeah. And I got everything repossessed, which really sucked.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's another story right there. You've been on the blogging scene for over a decade. You've been a blogger for, what, 12 years?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're at the final question that I like to ask each of my guests, which is, Jaime, how has blogging changed your life?
Well, I think I'm genetically engineered to talk.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, blogging's really been a way for me to not only find value in my personal life, but what blogging's done that to me has been almost a lifesaver is it gave me validity. I never felt that I had, as a person, intrinsic value. I always valued myself by what value I could contribute to other people's lives. And I never realized how important all this was until I let go. And that goes back to that story, where my wife has said, when I said I'm going to give up, my wife says, just do one last thing. Just try being yourself. And I thought that people wouldn't like me, the real me, and just not I had to stop trying to be what I thought people would want and just be who I am and let all that filtering crap happen naturally. And the fact that I absolutely love people, I genuinely have an interest in the amazing qualities of individuals. I've been able to walk up to somebody who was yelling at an employee in a store and laugh, and this guy towered over me. I'm 5'9". He towers over me, and he was so mad. I remember walking up to this guy and laughing, and he looked around and says, "What the hell are you laughing at?" And I says, "You are such a jackass, and I think you're awesome." He did a double take. He had no idea how to take that comment because I just insulted him. And he says, "What are you?" And I said, "Look," I says, "I know you're having a bad day, but the fact is, you really are passionate about what you want. I really respect people that know what they want. But can I make one suggestion? Stop hammering on this little gal because she's just an employee and she can't give you what you want. Why don't you ask some questions and find out who can give you what you want?" And he stopped and he said, "Okay, that's a good idea." And realizing that people are amazing. And through blogging, it's a whole different landscape. If you can learn, I'll tell you what though, if you can learn how to, what would be the good word? Not differentiate. If you can, gosh, if you can filter, I don't even think that's the right word, but if you can figure out the difference between the things that are fake and the things that are real, and just spend your time in the spheres of the things that are real, blogging will always change your life because it is a way to connect and exchange and uplift and encourage and empower. And why the hell would you not want to spend time in that kind of a environment? And so that's how blogging changed my life, is that I've been this just bursting spring of wanting to do things and interact with people. And blogging's allowed me to do that for the next 12 years. And it's the longer time goes on, you know, blogging and WordPress and the plugins we have and social media and all that, if you connect it all together to your blogging, we've got rockets strapped to our back. Who knows where we're going to go now, but I just want to be a part of it. So
yeah, you're a natural extrovert, is that right?
I am now. It took me it took me growing up in a very violent environment, and then I learned how to fight really, really well, too well for my own good, and realized I didn't like the kind of person I was becoming. Met my wife, who was water to my fire, and realized whatever she saw in me, she saw something that I could be. I just knew that I loved her so much. I wanted to be that person. And then when I started traveling the country, just something snapped. I realized I didn't need to be violent or physical with people, but it took away my fear of people. And a good example, I would fly from Utah to Massachusetts. And I kept telling my best friend, I want to go on the subway. And he goes, no. And he's such a sweet guy. He's such a scaredy cat. Anyway, I said, I want to ride on the subway. He says, why? I said, because I want to meet some different kind of people. And he said, no. So we go to the airport to a hotel, because our flight was like 4:30 in the morning the next morning. We go down to the restaurant, and it's being renovated. So there's no place to get food, and we are starving. And he says, all right, well, then can you bring the shuttle bus around? I says, I'm sorry, it closed down a half an hour ago. And I'm already starting to smile. And he says, well, then where do we get food? She says, you have to go into town. Well, how do we get into town? And I kind of put my fist up next to my face. I'm like hopeful. And she says, you'll have to ride the subway. And I went, yes, yes. So we go down to the subway, and we got in the very back because he's such a chicken. We're in our suits. And the very first stop, in comes some gang members. There's like 4 of them. One of them is like over 7 feet tall. This real tall, skinny guy. They're skinheads. This guy's actually, he's got metal implant spikes coming up out of his skin. And these guys are drunk, and they're cussing and everything. And I went, oh, this is awesome. So I start walking towards them. And my friend says, what are you doing? I says, get off me. And I walk right up to this tall guy. And I said, hey, guys, how you doing? And all the conversation stopped, and they looked at me, and they said, what the F do you want? And I said, I just wanted to say thank you to somebody. And they looked at me all puzzled. I says, look, I was born in California where everyone says what they mean. And then I moved to Utah where no one says what they mean. And then I come out to Boston on business, and you guys say what you mean in your face. I love it here. And I'm going home tomorrow, and I have not had the opportunity to turn to someone who lives here and say, you guys freaking rock. And I love it here. And thank you for having such an awesome place for me to come and do business. And they burst out laughing and offered to take me for drinks. And I says, no, I'm good. I'm going to go out to dinner with my friend, but I just want to say thanks. They said, hey, man, you have a good trip back home. I went back to my friend, and my friend's jaw was just open. I says, dude, they're just people. But the thing is blogging allows us to connect in those ways. Pictures, video, audio. There's no limits anymore, Matthew. This is just what we're doing right now. This is just, yeah, it's changed my life. It's allowed me to be who I am. Probably made me more dangerous. I have no idea at this point. But I'm just having fun. I'm almost always happy, which I like.
Yeah. Yeah, you seem like such a positive guy.
I try to be.
I think you knew Adrian Smith?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
She's
mean,
a very, very positive person.
yeah, she was really good at connecting with people, you know.
Yes. She's the kind of gal. She is so sweet. If you talk to her too long, you will get a cavity.
Oh yeah, I
She's
did
awesome.
Skype with her at least once, if I recall, maybe twice, but yeah, she was just really good at connecting with people through the blog comments, and
Yeah.
she really inspired me. And I did this post about her. You'll have to check it out because it's that cartoon for that post got so many compliments, and so many people told me that's the reason why I clicked on it to begin with. You know, and
There you go. There.
yeah,
And she's a great example too of a real person taking the time
right.
and leaving a real comment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She's a great example of that. So that's what I like to do. Mine are definitely more tongue in cheek, very cheeky, very, very specific. But her and I would always go rounds when we find one another on the same board. We'll go back and forth. It's hilarious.
I'll bet.
So,
I'll bet. I could see that. So, Jaime, where can people connect with you online?
they can find me. Best place of all is wantedhero.com. That is where I spend 90% of my time.
Mm-hmm.
They can, of course, if they want to artwork or to connect with me immediately too, I always have my Fiverr up. So they can find me on Fiverr. You have to look me up as Wanted Hero. That's my username on Fiverr. But you said you'll leave a link there.
Mm-hmm.
They can find me on Twitter. It's at Wanted Hero. Again, that's my brand name. You can find me on Pinterest. I have huge boards on Pinterest. Anyone who likes to draw or likes creative thinking, because I love world building and helping writers expand and show them natural ways to just overload themselves with ideas. They can find me on Pinterest, again, at Wanted Hero.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. They can find me on Facebook, and gosh, I'm on most places.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't maintain all of them. I do maintain things on Pinterest. I do answer a little bit on Twitter, but mainly on Facebook, Pinterest, and on wantedhero.com.
Just curious, with your target audience being teens, are you on Snapchat?
I was for a while. I have an account there, but there are things about Snapchat that I just completely disgust me, and so I stopped.
Okay.
Just too much problems to where I even told my own kids, if you're on Snapchat, I'm going to smash your phone.
Okay.
So,
I haven't been on it myself, but
yeah,
you hear all the time that's where the teens are.
yeah. The main place that I'm finding the teens happens to be Reddit, and
Okay.
unfortunately, I'm just finally understanding. I think that I'm somewhat computer savvy. I'm just finally really starting to get all the Twitter language, and now the Reddit. The kids really are. Teens are heavily into Reddit, and I've had an account for years, but I'll be damned if I can figure out how to talk on that thing yet. So I'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Reddit's an interesting beast.
It is. It's powerful, but man, I get lost. Boy,
Yeah.
there's so much information there.
Yeah, there really is, definitely. Jaime, I feel like we could talk for another 3 hours. This is the first time we've talked, and it's really been a great experience. You have so many wonderful stories. I'm sure you're able to weave these stories into your content.
Oh yeah, there's the three main characters in my book, which is Wendell, Dax, and Chuck, who, by the way, with the exception of Wendell, Dax and Chuck always follow me when I comment on other people's boards. Just a warning.
Okay.
But people ask, well, who are they modeled after? And all three of them are modeled after me, different aspects of my personality.
Oh, that's right. In my research, somebody pointed out a post you did. Actually, I think it was for Kevin Duncan's blog, something about multiple personalities. What was that headline?
Yeah.
It has a great title to it.
Well, it was popular on there, and I wish I still had the post on my website, because I pointed everyone from that over to my website, where one of my characters was interviewing two more of my characters, and then at the end, he had to close it because it was an argument, and then they all started arguing in the comments section, and people started joining in saying, what is going on? And then the cartoon characters would turn on all the commenters, and then it just got crazy. So
Yeah, I'll even link to that post in the show notes so people can see what you're talking about. It's really great.
well, I appreciate you inviting me. It was a blast. So anytime you want to talk, I'm here.
Yeah, Jaime, thanks for coming on the Blog Chronicles, and I will have you on again sometime. That'd be great.
Absolute pleasure. I'd love it. So thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe on YouTube or iTunes and leave a rating or review to help other bloggers find us. If you want to chat, look me up on Twitter at Matt Loomis. Next time on the Blog Chronicles, we'll sit down with a self-employed career coach who has used blogging to grow her business. I want to ask her what she's doing online to get clients, how she's doing it, and I'm also going to talk with her about freelancing, what it takes to succeed in this new economy, and a lot more. I'm looking forward to asking her some good questions that should provide some helpful answers for people wanting to succeed online, working from home. So I'll see you next time on the Blog Chronicles.